Well, ladies and gentlemen, they're just a juggernaut. Brisbane Lions, what a performance over the Geelong 𝐼𝐶, getting it done 122 to 75. And, wow, I think there's 17 supporter bases that just watch this in quite a bit of envy, eh? Wow, what a team Brisbane are. Back-to-back premiers. And whether you like them or not, whether you're a supporter of them or not, you have to admire the adversity they've gone through this season with a number of key plays down for them. No Ainsworth, Jack Payne, a bit of Neil throughout the season. 𝐼𝐶 went out all this year. And for them to have Neil as a sub, the luxury for him to come on and impact, it was, a staggering grand final. Thought I'd just make a quick video, have a bit of a chat about it, given I've done this for the past 3 seasons with the grand finals. Of course, the Swans won last year. But, 2 flags in a row for the Lions. And considering the players that are going to be most likely bringing in, Ridley a chance, Draper, Oscar Allen, oh, God, they could have a three-peat. They could have a three-peat. And I guess it's good to see from a non-Victorian point of view, given how hard these premierships are to win for these non-Victorian sides. So I guess, as a Sydney supporter, I was somewhat literally cheering them on, even though I wouldn't mind seeing the Cats win, given they're a quarterly side. But yeah, Geelong just outmuscled on that midfield. And whilst they are such a well-coached and well-drilled side, they have a bunch of players out there that play their role superbly well. Sometimes talent just means more, and Brisbane bat unbelievably deep in the midfield, and that's what we have been saying on the previews and on the channel for most of this season. And when you have players like Ashcroft, Bailey bursting his way through, McCluggage pile on goals and score involvement, 𝐓𝐴𝐸 pinging kicks from the back half, Fletcher, Jesus, he impressive young player, composed in defence again today. And Brisbane's defence, how outstanding were they? Cats are a very good defence as well, and look, I thought when the game was pinging back and forth a little bit, Jack Henry and Lawson Humphreys had some good moments. Guthrie stood up at times, but your defence is only going to hold up so much if your midfield's getting well beat, and it was just an absolute avalanche as the game did get on late. That back six for Brisbane. Harris Andrews, he's the ultimate player. If you're an opposition supporter thinking, geez, Harris Andrews, if we could have him in our team, we'd be closer to a contender. An unbelievable player. It's been massive since Jack Payne's gone down, especially All-Australian. Massive again today. And Darcy Gardner, last 2 weeks, been outstanding. And these are sort of the players that help build your premiership, those reliable role players. Big Gavin Cameron, and look, there's a bit of fallout with Jeremy Cameron, the injuries he had. A crunching tackle he did place on, of course. I think it was 𝐼𝐿 𝐼𝐻. Jasper Fletcher. Unfortunately, it did hurt his ligaments, and I think it was the shoulder or something. And then, just in the wars today, Jeremy Cameron. But when you compare the talent on list for Brisbane and the Cats, it clears quite a bit. Bailey Smith's been one of the best recruits this season. Holmes kept on trying all day long, but if you're not going to get a whole heap and whole enough influence from those quartet of forwards like Sean Manor and Brad Close and Tyson Stengel, and of course, who was the other one looking through here? Brian Myers. Like, they had their little moments here and there, but ultimately, the Cats just couldn't get the game on their terms for most of the afternoon. Geelong love to get the game on their terms, and they're such a good ball-moving side. They're clean on the inside, but Brisbane just didn't allow that. Their pressure was fantastic all afternoon. They were winning the tackles pretty much all game long. In the end, it was 76 to 51. That's an absolute pasting. And then you even have the start of the fourth quarter, Cam Rayner leaves half forward, bang, crunching tackle on one of those inside mids. I forgot who it was. They turned the ball over the lines. They could get a goal off it. So their pressure in tight, the Lions, was fantastic. And whilst the Cats were bringing sufficient enough pressure, Brisbane just worked their hands in tight so well. Will Ashcroft deserving Norm Smith-Mellis. I thought Bailey potentially with the 9 scoring shots he had and 23 touches and 10 score involvements. Wowee. But Ashcroft, he's just such a skillful player in tight. He just, you blink and he gets a quick disposal away. He had a few hat kicks early on, but that's just what he does so well. He's such a cool customer in traffic. Player to watch, Will Ashcroft. He has just a really alert temperament. He does, and there's those quick hands he has. Even his brother Levi can do that so well. So, looking at this Brisbane lineup, they're going to be having these Ashcroft boys for the next 10 plus years. Wow, that's pretty special, and very jealous, of course. I'm sure many other people are. The Cats just utterly outplayed through the middle. I think halfway through the third, Kane Corn said on the coverage it was 8 goals to 2 halfway the third, or just before 3/4 time from stoppage. If Brisbane are going to dominate with scores from stoppage, it's pretty much game over. The Cats couldn't go with them, and as we said before, couldn't get the game on their terms whatsoever. As I said, I thought they did well. They hustled nicely in defence from that point of view, but couldn't get enough from that midfield. Yeah, Bailey Smith had 29 touches, but when they're able to get the ball out in the open inside 50, they're hitting their targets. They just couldn't find that. 2 marks inside 50 at halftime. This is the most efficient team in the competition heading into this game. They usually pick apart targets fun. Look what they did in the first week against the Lions. They lowered their eyes, went to the pockets. They kicked away from Harris Andrews, and it felt like every time they were kicking it right on his head. So yeah, they just really struggled to show the poise, and in the end couldn't really live up to the pressure. But they had the territory, and they had the inside 50 opportunities. But really throughout that first half, it probably shouldn't have been a draw. Shouldn't have been 36-all. The Cats did well enough to wrestle back somewhat the momentum and make it all square. But yeah, geez, they had probably a bit of the rub of the green, to be honest. Had a few goals from free kicks, and I think they had a nice, well-worked goal to be thrown off the holding the ball, and 𝐼𝐵 shifts out quick, and then they find Brad close inside 50, and he kicks the goal. But yeah, it just felt like for all this game, they were simply just second best. I was heading into it with belief if the Cats could somewhat break even in that clearance game in the midfield, that they could get it done on the outside, because they're just such a good sign of being able to move it. But yeah, they just couldn't get it done in the clearances when the whips were cracking, especially throughout that third term. And heading into this game, oh geez, it was a fascinating call with 𝐷𝐼𝐵 Neal as a sub, but it turned out to be a beautiful call, because he comes on at the right time at halftime when the game's in the balance. 17 touches in the second half. Wowee. He looked really fresh out there, whilst he looked really rusty in the first week against the Cats. But he won a bunch of clearances in the end. Like his clearances are huge. He had 4 at the start, like the first 10 minutes, I think, of the fourth quarter. So yeah, just so many plays picked at the right time as well. Charlie Cameron, of course, 4 goals, able to kick some nuts ones. The second one, the first one he kicked in the second quarter was a thing of beauty. But it was probably a career worst year for Charlie Cameron, with a high amount of goals of games, without a single goal, excuse me. But he just peaks at the right time and plays his best game of probably years, to be honest. He was highly influential. He had a pretty good grand final in 2023, to be honest. But that's where it was going to get done, especially for the Lions. They've been a side notorious for wasting and blundering their chances going inside 50, and that's what we saw early on. 1 goal 6. Zach Bailey had 0 goals 4 in the first quarter, but he was still threatening. And in my eyes, my personal Norm Smith medal, because he just was bursting his way through. He was a threat for 4 quarters, and then he was able to finally put together 3 goals 6 somewhat, but yeah, 10 score involvements he had. But they definitely needed to take their chances, the Lions, and whilst they couldn't in the first half, they really were able to in that third term. And plays like, as we say, Charlie Cameron. 𝐼𝐵 didn't really play necessarily small forward, a bit more on the wing. Thought really underrated. He had some good defensive moments, especially manning up on Ollie Dempsey. He was usually just always floating there off a marking contest behind the ball and mopping up nicely. So I thought he was very underrated. But Kai Lohmann, I think he kicked the Lions first of the game, copped a nasty knock on the head early on, so he was in the wars from the get-go. But he's built for the big moment, isn't he, Kai Lohmann, and used it well in open play. And when I was streaming the game, there was a person in my chat that said at the start of the fourth quarter, if Rayney just impacts, they'll win this game. And as we said before, bang, he applies that crunching tackle right from the get-go from that half-forward line. And his presence that fourth term was outstanding. Rada laid some important tackles. He didn't only do it once at the start of that fourth quarter. Kicked the goal as well off a bit of a blunder and a poor fumble from Connor O'Sullivan. That's the thing. They just couldn't handle the pressure eventually, the Cats. And O'Sullivan's been impressive this season, but to be fair, it was a bad kick from Zach Guthrie, to be honest. Should have hit him up, lace out in the full, but can't be fumbling there. Rana does goal, and he impacts sufficiently enough in key moments for them to get over the line, the Brisbane Lions. But they're just a juggernaut, absolute juggernaut. We said in the preview, it's probably the most well-coached team versus the most talented team in the competition. And across all lines, everybody played their part. Terrific as a back 6. Darcy Ford, underrated game as well. Scrubbing out of the ruck, getting some key clearances, especially throughout that third quarter when they were needing some territory. The third term was back and forth a little bit. The Cats had their fair share of opportunities, but they just swallow up those inside 50s. Extremely low Brisbane, and yeah, Harris Andrews is some sort of a leader. I think I haven't yet to see the Norm Smith medal votes, but I think he's definitely up there, to be honest. A Brisbane Lions performance without many passengers, that's safe to say. Even Sam Marshall, he got subbed out at halftime. I don't think he was that awful. Yeah, probably struggled to get in the game a bit, but he shows some good poise under pressure. That first-year player, impressive by the looks of it. But hey, when you got 𝐷𝐼𝐵 Neal coming off on as a sub, that does make sense. And even Ty Gallup, his first units were okay. He was getting his head in the game a bit, fade out a little bit, could have had the goal late. Bruce Revel, 11 touches, Premiership player, not a bad game. He was one with a bit of experience. You'd think maybe he could have a few bad moments under pressure, but he's a cool customer, isn't he? And 𝐼𝐚𝐭𝐞𝐬 getting his Premiership medallion after missing out last year, feel-good stories. So looking across all these names, every player playing their part, and it's a midfield that bats deep, we've said all year, and geez, did it burn the Cats one to a crisp. Atkins, yeah, he had 20 touches and 6 tackles, but I felt a handful of his possessions came under quite a bit of pressure. So, yeah, Brisbane's, the pressure in tight, I thought was fantastic to win the ball back. They were sharp with how they moved it. And, just as the game got on, they were able to really flex their muscles with the momentum they had and piled on an onslaught in the end. But, defense wins your championships. That was what Brisbane's back six did so well. And in the end, it came down to talent a bit. This Brisbane midfield burnt the Cats in the end. Where to for the Cats? I do wonder. There's always a team that drops out of the 4. The next year could be Adelaide. But, the Cats, still a fantastic year. In the end, a soft run home. Does it affect them, to be honest? Because I thought their first 2 finals performances were outstanding. They played a terrific finals brand, but they just couldn't match the quality of this Brisbane outfit. They couldn't get the game on their terms whatsoever. And whilst they were sufficient enough at halftime, it felt like they'd really need a response from the midfield. They needed someone from like Dangerfield, of course, playing forward. A bit of a non-sighting, to be honest. Just the 10 touches, a really quiet game. And Jeremy Cameron, when he's out injured, he's also one that moves the needle a little bit for this Cat side with his ability to get up the ground and hit options inside 50. But when their small forwards are just coasting a bit, who's it going to come from? Bailey Smith, I don't think he was awful. 29 touches and 11 contested, getting possessions early on. But yeah, just a game they really couldn't get on their terms, the Cats. And whilst they had periods of repeated entries and stuff, they weren't good enough going inside 50. Brisbane's defence held up well. And I thought they were a lot cleaner and a lot more cleaner and tight the lines from hitting those hands from inside or out than getting it and using the widths of the MCG to their liking. So, yeah, powerful performance from this Brisbane outfit. You can only admire them. A terrific win against the Cats by, in the end, it was almost 60 points, the margin last year. Could you believe that if this was over 60 points? It would have been a higher margin than last year's grand final when the game was basically over after quarter time. But yeah, it's a grand final too. I think no matter who you are, I really admire back-to-back for the Brisbane Lions. Very difficult to do when you hear former players talk about their opinions regarding these scenarios of back-to-back premierships. I think the Cats will be around the mark next year, but still a fairly old side. They recruited well with Bailey Smith, of course, and some good young players like Ollie Dempsey in there too. Connor O'Sullivan, another one, can hold up his head high. He's going to be a quality footballer, no doubt. Just in the end, Brisbane, too powerful for them. Back-to-back premierships. Let me know down below in the comments, lads, what you did think of the game. A pretty fitting result, I do feel, given how this season has gone. The gulf between the top 8 and the bottom 10 has been substantial. And in the end, the final series, very underwhelming. Literally, the only close game we had was that Elam final between the Dockers and, of course, the Suns. But there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Lions swaps their way towards another flag. Definitely a lot of feel-good stories in there. Thanks for tuning in, lads. And, of course, stay tuned for the off-season content as well. We'll get that cracking on the channel. Take care.